Now, Democratic donors may have just found their preferred candidate for 2020 election. Now, before I get into this, of course, we do have to put out the disclaimer of 2020 is a while away. A lot of stuff can happen. So this, of course, is not set in stone, but it does kind of show you who the Democratic establishment is looking for and the kind of person that they're looking towards to run against Donald Trump in the next election. So with that, I go to the Hill. Now, the donor class, apparently, according to them, is buzzing about Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris. Now, they write that since she's planning to attend an event this weekend at the Hamptons, surrounded by top fundraisers. Oh, so she's going to the right parties. Now, the Bridgehampton event, where Harris will mingle with top donors and supporters of Hillary Clinton, is the ultimate signal that Harris is thinking much bigger than the Senate, according to one top bundler. She's running for president. Take it to the bank, according to another fundraiser. She's absolutely going to run. Well, that's very interesting. Now, what do the donors have to say about this? They say that Harris is giving them, quote, a glimmer of hope when they need it the most. I did a report, you weren't here for that, Ron, where the Democratic donors were basically fleeing the DNC because the DNC is fucking broke under Tom Perez. They're at what, have a $1.9 million debt.
Wait a second, Jeff. Wait a second. I thought that fundraising was what they were good at. I thought Nancy Pelosi was the world's greatest fundraiser.
She's the Michael Jordan.
We need to compromise and get behind her. And even though she's a centrist at best, we need to stop being an ideological purist and not show up to a knife fight with a butter knife or whatever the fuck a gunfight with a knife, whatever the hell dumbass fucking metaphor they use. I thought we had to do that because they're so good at fundraising. You mean to tell me they had two of the worst fundraising months ever, but that's what they're good at, and that's why we need to tolerate their pathetic lack of leadership?
But hey, they're not Trump. They're not Trump.
You Putin puppet, you, with your facts of them having the worst fundraising months ever when we're constantly told that's why we need to shut up and get in line because they're good fundraisers and we can't. Oh, it's almost like maybe they're just completely shitty at everything. Maybe
it could be.
Maybe it's a dead model. All right, you get the idea.
We do. So for me, on the whole fundraising thing, getting behind Kamala Harris. Look, whenever the donors see hope in a specific candidate, I get a little bit nervous. So,
do they see hope and change too?
Oh, we might.
Do they see both? Is there some hope and change with that hope?
There could be some change. Pocket change, which is all we'll have left.
For them.
So, what's exactly the draw of Kamala Harris to these fundraisers? Well, they explain that they see the former prosecutor turned California Attorney General as embodying the qualities of a Democratic presidential candidate who would need to win in 2020. Now, what qualities? Now, considering how we've had a huge leftward shift in the public consciousness when it comes to policy, things like, Medicare for all, which, single payer people are talking about that, a living wage, all that stuff. Is that what she stands for? Well, all we know from her so far is that she is okay with challenging Trump people. Well, great. At least you passed the lowest bar of being a Democrat, which some, Democrats don't even do that. Like people like Joe Manchin vote with Trump like 60% of the time or some crazy amount. But what else?
Andy recently defended the insurance companies too, Joe Manchin did.
Not surprised. They also see her as a fresh face. Let me give you a quote from former Representative Loretta Sanchez. Now, she said, "There's a big hunger out there for somebody new and different." Oh, that's, I'm sorry. It's a quote from Bill Carrick, who was an advisor to Representative Loretta Sanchez. Now, he says, "People are looking for champions. She's in that category. There are people who might not know her real well, but want to like her." What little they know, they like. So what exactly do we know about her, Ron? Well, I've got some points. Number one, she's a prolific fundraiser. Since November, Harris has become one of her party's biggest draws. She has raised upwards of $600,000 for Senate candidates in recent months. Okay, well, there's one. She also recently raised $227,000 in an email for MoveOn.org, according to sources close to Harris. Now, some of these Clinton Democrats, these donors, are saying Kamala has come to embody what's next for our party. This is according to Ben LeBolt, a Democratic strategist and former spokesman for President Barack Obama. So, really, is she what's next, or is she just a continuation of the status quo? He said she comes to Congress with immense credentials, a law enforcement official with a smart approach to taking on bad actors and protecting consumers. Now, is that true? Well, let's see. Exactly. In 2013, California prosecutors claimed to have discovered over 1,000 foreclosure law violations done by Trump Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin's bank, One West. Now, he ran this bank for a while. It got into a lot of problems. There was a lot of problems. They were tremendous, right? Tremendous, disastrous problems. And what did she do about
problems?
Big league problems. That's right. The California Attorney General's office failed to file any action against that bank. At the time, Kamala Harris was California's Attorney General. Now, she said, "We went and we followed the facts and the evidence and the decision my office made. We pursued it like any other case. We go and we take a case wherever the facts lead us." Interesting. They had a lot of evidence that they did this foreclosure law violations, but the banks didn't get punished at all. I wonder if that has to do with any of the money. In 2011, Mnuchin's wife at the time, Heather Mnuchin, gave $8,750 to Harris's 2011 campaign. One West Bank donated $6,500 to Harris's 2011 election. Heather Mnuchin also donated $850 to Harris's 2014 election for California Attorney General. So wait a minute. Mnuchin is a Trump guy now. Okay, he's in the Trump cabinet. And yet Mnuchin, his wife and their bank donated a whole bunch of money to Kamala Harris. And conveniently, she didn't go after One West Bank for doing these thousands of violations. New direction? Not so much.
No, I mean, she's a corporatist, and she's more of the neoliberal agenda, and that's that's painstakingly obvious by the people she surrounds herself with, and by the people who are behind her thus far. Somebody on my live stream yesterday described her as the new Pelosi, and I don't know if I would go that far quite yet on her. I feel like things are still unfolding on her. I don't know if I'd go that far yet, but there's a lot of red flags and a lot of cause for concerns. And as far as new directions and new faces, even within the Democratic Party, there's so many other people to be excited about. People like Nina Turner, like Tulsi Gabbard, like Paula Jean Swearengin, and like a lot of other Justice Democrats whose information you can find on there. People like Jim Keedy. There's a lot of people still working within the system. Jaffe, who's going to take Pelosi on.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of things to get excited about. Kamala Harris kind of seems like the establishment's response to all that.
Why do you think
a new and different direction?
Why do you think the donors are lining up? Why do you think they're buzzing about her all the time? It's because, the donors like the direction that she wants to go. Well, she's soft on the banks, and she's basically an anti-Trump mouthpiece. She is the embodiment of what the resistance under the neoliberal corporatists has become. That it's their response, like, oh, we're not Trump. He's such a bad guy. But, we all kind of agree, like Steven Mnuchin, I'm not going to go after his bank, even though he's the Trump Treasury guy. Not going to go after him, not going to go after the banks, not going to go after, corruption. What we're going to do is I'm just going to look strong in some of these hearings, but not really do anything. And that's generally what the establishment does.
Well, and that's pretty much their platform. I mean, the Democrats proved that with their whole new slogan,
Ugh.
which, I know we talked about it on this show. I honestly thought it was an Onion article when I first saw it. And I wasn't allowed, I mean, people tweeted at me saying that they thought the same thing. Like, I honestly thought it was an article from The Onion. I thought there's no way that the Democratic establishment
Could be
is
that
that
dumb.
disconnected and that dumb. But again, there is no other entity, I would say, in the history of this country that's better at snatching defeat from the jaws of victory than the Democratic Party. They even got the Buffalo Bills beat out. So it's pretty dismal, and the whole recipe of, hey, we're not Trump, it's not working. But people like Nancy Pelosi, that's the only card they have in their deck. She proved that because, yeah, she did really great in the midterms in 2006 when George W. Bush's popularity was almost at single digits, where a stale ham sandwich could have taken power away from the White House. So she ran on the "Hey, we're not Bush" platform, and it worked. It's not going to work again. Now, despite how despicable Trump is, the fact that he's there in the first place is proof that, hey, we're not this guy isn't good enough to win.
Yeah.
And the Democrats don't have a stronger message than that. And by putting up more, seemingly blank suits. And there's some people that play the establishment game to a degree that I think at this moment in time are reasonable compromises to make. Elizabeth Warren, Al Franken. And I know a lot of people disagree with me on some of those, but I think those are people that I don't agree with them on everything. I have some concerns, but I think that in the scheme of things, they're playing the establishment game because they want to get to the better tomorrow that we progressives want. And I'd be willing to, at this point in time, hear them out and likely get behind them if I had to.
Yeah, I've argued that point about Elizabeth Warren because I definitely, because it's not a popular opinion to have in progressive circles,
No.
especially since she did not back Bernie Sanders, and a lot of people are understandably very sore about that.
And I'm one of them. But here's where the difference happened for me, Jeff. When she came out in support of single payer, she, to my knowledge, is still the only Democrat that has that kind of power, that has the platform that she has.
Right.
And of course, when I say this, I'm not including Bernie Sanders. So on including Bernie Sanders, she is the only one that has really come out for that. And now, ever since she's done that,
More have.
And now some of the donors are saying, look, let's just put single payer on the platform. I mean, there was this big name donor recently that came out and was like, they need to adopt Bernie Sanders' platform, they being the Democrats, if they want to win.
Yeah, that was Tom Steyer. He's
Right.
The
Yes.
billionaire
Thank you.
environmentalist. We did a story about him where he's like, the era of not covering people is over. It's done. We need to move forward on this. So, and that's good.
So, and I give Elizabeth Warren some credit for that. Now, do I have my hesitations about her? Abso-freaking-lutely. Are there some things she's done that I have really not liked? Yes, big time. And back in Bernie was one of them.
Right.
However, there have been some glimmers of hope within her. And if she was a 2020 candidate or something like that, I think those are the types of compromises that, in the short run at least, I think are reasonable to make. And I see a difference, at least at this point in time. She could prove me wrong later. There's still a lot of time between now and 2020. But I'm just saying, in the contemporary time capsule of where we're at now, that's a different compromise than, say, a Kamala Harris. And I see a difference between those two.
Right.
Even though I share the concerns of Elizabeth Warren that all progressives share. Same with Al Franken.
Right.
And I actually
absolutely.
have more concerns with him. But
Right. So, one more thing, too. I want to get to the framing of how the Democratic Party is essentially framing Kamala Harris. Now, one Democratic fundraiser said of her, she is no Barack Obama, right? She doesn't give speeches like Obama, and she doesn't fundraise like Obama, But that's not the way she's looking at it. In this political climate, she's saying, if not me, then who? So basically, what Kamala Harris is saying is that, well, nobody else is going to run. Nobody else has as good of a shot as me. If I'm not, if I'm not going to run, then who would run? Well, I've got a couple of ideas. One of them being Bernie Sanders. Another being possibly Nina Turner or Tulsi Gabbard or some of the others that you've thrown out as well, running for 2020. But that's how they're framing this. That's how she's framing it. If not me, then who? Well, there's plenty of other choices, and those other choices have a much better record than you do for progressive causes.
Yeah, and this sounds familiar. I mean, this is very cliche. I mean, Hillary Clinton said the same thing. I know some people might want something better, but fuck you, you're not going to get it. I mean, that's really the theme here, and that's because we have the system set up this way where you can make a claim like that. And it's time that as a populace we say, no, you have to come to us. That's not how. That's not a democracy. Doesn't work that way. And I know we don't have a democracy. I'm not that naive, but you still there's still power in the people. And it's like, no, you have to come to us. You have to get our vote. You have to, you can't expect us to just say, well, we can't get what we want because this compromise has to be made when you're losing constantly. Again, and I've said it before on the show, you've said something similar. If coming to the center was winning, then that'd be one thing. Then you could kind of just be like, look, the progressive ideas that I migrate towards, too many people in this country aren't ready for them. So it's going to be a long climb. But the thing is going to the center's not winning, it's losing, and it's losing embarrassingly bad. Furthermore, you have people in very red areas cheering for the idea of universal single-payer healthcare. You have 60% of adults that favor it. You have 80% of people that identify as Democrats. And that doesn't include the establishment, obviously. It means the people. They favor Bernie Sanders' platform. Bernie Sanders is the most popular politician in the country. Elizabeth Warren, the second most. Progressivism is on the rise, and that's how change works. Change works. The way real change happens in this country is when a status quo reaches a point of crisis to the point of no return, and you have to make a sharp turn in the other direction. If Trump isn't the point of crisis, I don't know what is. And, if we don't take a sharp turn, we're going to have more Trumps. That's why Kid Rock is going to run for Senate. That's why The Rock is entertaining a presidential run. So,
Caitlyn Jenner.
Caitlyn Jenner. This is it. This is it. So whenever someone gives you the compromise baby steps argument, history is not on their side. Recent election results are not on their side. And quite frankly, they're just parroting establishment platitudes. And whether they realize it or not, they're not helping the cause, and they're wrong.